Second, it's live. Wake up, let's talk sports. Guys, thank you for listening to this episode of the Leadoff, heard here every Saturday morning on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton.
And I'm Tony. Grab that coffee, energy drink, or hot tea, and let's talk some sports.
We are here getting you ready for your sports weekend. We're right in the middle of NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs. The
MLB's firing up.
Yeah, they're getting into their stride. But yet, NBA or NFL is still getting the headlines. We're going to start off with a story dating back a couple of weeks, but breaking yesterday. Odell Beckham Jr. named a suspect in an assault investigation. According to TMC, a woman reported Beckham grabbed her by the throat at Delilah, a popular LA restaurant, a few weeks ago. Obviously, Beckham representatives have denied the allegation.
I think to start off, this has been a developing story, and TMZ isn't one to put any information out there if it's not valid.
Yeah.
So let's start with that as some of the credibility. I would think if TMZ is going to take this story, there has to be some credibility of some sort. Not that anything did happen or that Odell is wrong. There's details. Do you think somebody's just chasing after him signing now a new contract? And
Well, it predated that because he just signed last week, and this supposedly happened a couple weeks ago. But I know what you're saying, but let's assume, let's not put anything towards the story that, let's not put anything out there. So let's just assume a separate situation. Somebody's looking for a payday, and they falsely accuse an athlete or celebrity of something. Even if the story is them falsely accusing them, that is a story in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's true or not. Now, you're right. I'm one to believe that when you're involved in stories like this as an athlete, not that Odell Beckham has been hugely involved in things like this. It's more of locker room stuff that people kind of nag on him for. It hadn't been a lot of off the field issues like this, but I'm one to believe that you're not being in the wrong place at the wrong time doesn't happen very often. You put yourself in certain situations. Now, whether you're always 100% guilty, I don't think anyone's ever 100% guilty or 100% innocent of the story that gets told. I always think it's somewhere in the middle. You're going to hear the headline grabbers where he allegedly put his hands around somebody's throat and assault. It's those words that get you.
And for his camp to say, well, we haven't heard of any investigations, police haven't reached out, doesn't mean that there's no validity to this story at all either.
It could be 100% made up on the female's part that this happened. I tend to believe that's usually not the case.
Yeah.
Now, we go back, but just because he's put their hands on the throat, you go back to Indiana basketball, Bobby Knight, when they said, well, he choked out this player. And then the video comes out, he did put his hands on his throat, and that's not right. And then people will say, well, that's not really choking out, and that's not... He gets stories, like I said, you hear the headline, and it's always somewhere in the middle. It's never what one person says or the other person says, and I think that's something to this. That's kind of where this story goes. Although the owner of the restaurant of Delilah's, John Terzian, told TMZ, "We were contacted about an investigation, reviewed the videos. The claim is false. There's no evidence of this person even being in the area where she claimed the incident occurred." That sounds pretty damning. Again, we're not giving necessarily our opinion. I guess it is our opinion, but we're not saying this happened or this happened. We're not investigative reporters. We weren't there. We have all the information y'all have.
But that statement is only they don't have any evidence that was the case.
Now you're a business
but no one
owner.
is denying that she wasn't there, he wasn't there. They just don't have evidence to prove that.
You're a business owner. You have famous people coming in there. You tend to let's protect the famous people.
Absolutely.
If there's a video,
that's your clientele.
If there's a video of Odell Beckham Jr. choking out a lady, maybe the guy says it different. Maybe there is something to the story, like usually there is. Maybe some sort of she wants to get up near him. You know how some people are with celebrities. And honestly, if anybody's putting their hands on anybody, if I'm Odell Beckham Jr., I better have bodyguards that, hey, this is not that you should go out and assault anybody, but if this story comes out, it should be my bodyguard because I'm not anywhere near that. I mean, we see the thing with the story with Michael Irvin still developing, the Super Bowl at Phoenix.
Yeah.
That seems like it's going Irving's way, but there's still a lot. I mean, still the trial has to go on and more investigation. Stuff like this happens. And we're not defending Odell Beckham Jr. whatsoever. If he put his hands on a woman, he obviously needs to be held accountable.
If he signs with any other team, does this really come out? It seems like if you play for the Ravens, you're just destined to have some type of assault issue charges.
Yeah.
Ray Rice, Ray Lewis.
Lamar Jackson can't catch a break. You finally get him a receiver. And I don't see much happening with this unless more comes out. People will say, hey, if it happened a few weeks ago, why is it just coming out? This is just when the story comes out. For all we know, she went to the police that night.
Investigations were going,
Yeah, or, in some cases, if, let's assume Odell Beckham did put his hands on her in some way, publicists, whoever in Odell Beckham's camp is going to get in touch with her. Hey, don't say anything. You want money. You want this. That.
And I see that's probably where this story is going to probably end up. They'll probably end up out of court, some sort of settlement to let's just walk away from all of this.
And again, I feel like I'm defending him. I'm not. I'm just throwing both sides of the stories. But anytime you see settled, that doesn't mean guilt. No, a lot of times it's like it's just easier to throw money at it, get rid of it. Yeah. It's easier just to do that, get it out.
Because it doesn't help Odell to go to trial, even if he knows he's innocent and he's found innocent. Yeah. He still goes through the trial process.
Because this won't be a story in 6 weeks or whenever assuming there's no video that comes out that he did this. If let's say in a week, there's a payment made to this woman or her camp and it goes away. 6 weeks from then, it's a non-story. No one's going to talk about it. But if you let it drag on, then it can. And who knows? Who knows what the NFL does to Odell Beckham if there is a trial, even if he's found innocent.
Yeah.
People have been suspended for less. Talking about suspensions, Max Scherzer suspended 10 games for violating the prohibitions on foreign substances rule after umpire checked him for the third time in the game for a sticky substance on his hand.
And Max Scherzer says that it was the mix of sweat and rosin, which if anyone that doesn't know, the white bags these guys toss in the powder is a rosin. Sweat and this powder mixes, it can become somewhat sticky. The rosin is a drying agent for sweaty hands. That's not uncommon. That's known to a lot of guys to use to tack up their hands a little bit to get a little more spin on the ball. His agent, Scott Boras, said, there's no one way to explain what's too sticky. And that's where the problem lies with this rule in the MLB, is it's completely judgment-based from umpire to umpire.
Yeah, there are legal substances you can use to get better grip on the ball. And Scherzer even said it himself after the game. He would like to see the rule modified. like you said, he said he was using legal substances. Sweat got mixed in it, and it made it, I guess, more grippy or sticky than it should have been. And I guess after the third time you check, the umpire's gonna be like, "Hey."
And I think that was the umpire's explanation was all the guys, both teams use rosin bags, the same rosin bag. We know what it should feel like. His was stickier than that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the amount of sweat has something to do with that.
Yeah, this isn't a
If he was,
situation where is he using performance enhancing drugs? Let's do a drug test. It's
a
it
judgment
happened
call.
it happened in the moment, and there's nothing you can go back. Like, he has an opportunity to appeal that. He said he will not appeal it. The decision, saying the best thing for the Mets is to accept a suspension and move
I
on.
think that came down from the Mets is let's not prolong this.
Because what are you going to do?
Set your suspension and let's miss a couple starts and then let's move on.
At this point, if you appeal, it's just going to, it's he said, she said, or he said, he said, and you're talking about an umpire.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I know this umpire has history. The last 3 pitchers that have been suspended for this has been the same umpire. But what are you going to do? Move on. Like I said, there's no tests you can go back and do. You just have a hearing. He says he tells the negotiators this is exactly, tells them exactly what he told the umpires, and he's not happy about it, but it seems like all parties are like, let's just move on, let's go. In the long term, this probably doesn't mess with anything. If this was down the stretch in September, it might make a difference. 10 games, most pitchers are going to miss 10 games due to some sort of injury anyways.
Well, apparently in what Scott Boras added is that referencing Phil Cousy, the umpire, the head umpire in this situation with you like you mentioned, this is his third, and the only 3 guys that have been ejected for this have been under his watch.
Yeah.
Is that apparently he has a standard that's different from all the other MLB umpires. Now, again, this comes down to a complete judgment call. I don't know how you say one guy's hands are stickier than another's.
You have to have some sort of test, but not a test, but a standard to go by.
And I think that's hard. You and I could both have a different opinion on baseball, how sticky.
That's baseball. Strike zones, different.
Oh, exactly. That's what I'm saying. In this situation, he does have a different standard, and I think that's across MLB of all calls. Most all calls in baseball are judgment calls, and everyone has a different strike zone. Everyone has different standards that they go by when they're officiating a game, and this is one of those, unfortunately, that we've brought into baseball.
And this may be one of a situation where he's more strict about it early in the season when it doesn't make a big difference. Make sure he lays down the law now so pitchers know, hey, don't mess around with this when he may not make that same call in September, October, as he does, when they have rule changes in NFL or any sport, preseason, spring training, they're always more strict. Let's get the rule figured out, and then we back off a little bit in the regular season so we don't let that make decisions. Right. Sticking with baseball right now, everybody's been seeing it for a while. I called it. I've been calling it for a while, but it's not a miraculous prediction because we all saw it coming, I think. The Oakland A's are moving to Las Vegas. I think it's a good move for them. I mean, Vegas is definitely a better market.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've seen how the sports, when hockey and the NFL moving there, it's worked out. If Vegas is willing to make a deal on a new stadium and Oakland's not, I mean, that's the whole thing. Oakland has literally built 2 stadiums in their history, an arena for the Warriors and a multi-use stadium for the Raiders and A's. And all 3 franchises have had issues getting new stadiums, so they've moved on. Oakland has lost all 3 of its pro teams in the last 5 years.
Yeah, the club announced that they did reach an agreement to acquire land near the Strip. And they would plan on, it would be a new $1 billion retractable roof stadium, and they would plan on starting the season in 2027 in this new facility.
That's I believe think they said just north of Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play. I think this is good. The Las Vegas A's just sounds nice. I'd almost want to change the Aces, but that's the WNBA's team.
I've seen a few other options as well. We won't get into those yet, but some different renderings of possible names, possible color changes to the organization.
I saw one where they brought the elephant mascot back that I think they mostly use in Kansas City and Philadelphia.
I'm not mad. I think the Athletics transition there well. I think I would go with a big branding, but knowing the ownership of the A's and they don't want to spend money, I'm not sure they go through a complete
maybe they'll spend money now. I don't know. They have money. I saw a report out the other day. I mean, they have the owner is worth more money than half the teams will be, but yet they're down there with the Rays.
Just won't spend it.
They won't spend, and maybe
it's the support of Oakland that he knows it's not worth spending.
Although after a while you would think he would. I mean, they wrote a book about it. They made a movie about it. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think they need to do some sort of rebranding. I keep the A's. The Athletics is just one of those names. You don't even think about it. That's just a weird. It is a weird team name. The Lakers are a weird team name. The Yankees, but you don't think about it. It's just synonymous with a sports franchise. Yeah. I think they need to keep the A's or the Athletics.
And I like the colors they use. Maybe you just do some type of rebranding on some of the, your uniform styling. I mean, obviously lose all the Oakland and we go with Las Vegas.
I've seen some early renderings of the normal uniform. They just use the same font and put Las Vegas instead of Oakland or instead of Athletics. Yeah. I think they need to go beyond that. I think they need to make their main color go to a green or yellow jersey where they wear
maybe even you go more gold in it versus silver. The yellow.
Now, honestly, I know they're talking about moving or having an expansion basketball team there. Just move the Sacramento Kings there. The Las Vegas Kings, that works. Yeah. Change them to gold. I don't know. The Kings are doing well this year. I just thought, I don't such a terrible team. It may not.
If the A's do move, that would be the first team since 2005 when the Expos moved to Washington. Mm-hmm. And the only other team to relocate would be the Washington Senators when they moved here to Texas to become the Rangers. Yeah. And that was in 1971.
The first Washington Senators team also moved and became the Twins. Probably, say 61 is when they got it. So sometime in the 50s or early 60s is when that happened. But yeah, teams don't relocate very often. Now we're in a society where early on populations were geared towards the east, and as it grew, the Giants and the Dodgers moved out west. Yeah. Now we're most big cities have teams. I think you're more likely to see more expansion than anything because TV right deals. Money is stupid. Yeah. Maybe not compared to the NFL, but all sports, the money is stupid.
In Vegas only makes sense. And now with all of the loosening of betting and betting sponsors and things through sports, that's slightly loosened up. And I think it makes sense to build, like you said, that Vegas is a very good market.
It is, and the only thing people would always say, and I think it was a cover up for they didn't want the gambling issue, was that no, it's just mostly tourists. It wouldn't work. But as you've seen, putting a hockey team out of everything, a hockey team was the first to go there. Mm-hmm. They've had success, they've had support, as in the Golden Knights. The Raiders moved there. I mean, just look at it. In the last 10 years, this is what Vegas has done sports wise. They're getting the A's. The WNBA, the Aces moved there. I don't remember if that was a relocation or expansion. The Raiders relocated there. The Desert Dogs, the Golden Knights, they've gotten a Pro Bowl. Actually, I think they have the Pro Bowl right now. That's just, it's not Hawaii, it's Vegas now. They've had a Super Bowl. Tournament? It's on the list. Super Bowl, which I think it's this year's the Super Bowl. That's going to be a big test. Not necessarily, maybe where, not necessarily, and if they can handle it, because of course they can handle it, but more in that's when the Sin City part of it comes out. Like, what's going to happen at the Super Bowl in Vegas? One of the probably the most betted on sporting event that's going to be a hectic town to be in that week.
Yeah.
The NFL draft, they've had a Final Four, Formula One Grand Prix coming, and college football national championship are all the events they've either had or are going to have just in the past 10 years, all from sports betting.
Mm-hmm.
Say becoming legal because it's illegal in most states. Then
and not just the sports betting, it's the entire atmosphere of Vegas. You have, that really is a destination place for these big events, to bring a Super Bowl in, because there's plenty for travelers to do while they're there. And that's part of what the NFL uses to gauge where Super Bowls will be played, is what amenities do you have to offer while people are there?
Yeah. And a big issue with putting these teams in situations in Vegas, sports gambling getting bigger and bigger, is players being accessible by bettors or people who are gambling.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been instances in this, mostly in college sports, where saying, hey, insulting them, cussing them out, saying stuff like, you cost me money. That's going to happen regardless if you intertwine sports and sports betting.
And with the growth of fantasy sports,
Mm-hmm.
that you've seen that already worldwide.
Yeah. And that's gambling as well. People don't want to call it gambling because it's not putting a wager down on a event. It's you're putting money in to win more money. I get the difference. I mean, with some of the writing I do for the organizations, I can't gamble on sports, but I can do FanDuel, the one, not the app I use, but you can do FanDuel, you can do fantasy sports, because those aren't considered sports gambling.
Yeah.
To its extent, here in Texas, sports gambling isn't legal. There's legislation to make it more legal, at whatever level that will be.
Yeah.
But fantasy sports is not legal, but it's betting.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it is already. I mean, you had Pete Rose decades ago get in trouble for this, so it's already happening. You had Calvin Ridley, being suspended for a year for that. Now, and there are more players being suspended in the NFL. I think that's just stupidity more than anything. You're allowed to bet on sports. You just don't do it in the team facility. Don't do it on a phone that easily trackable, and don't bet on football. Don't bet on the NFL. It's just stupid. Honestly, you might have a gambling problem if you can't just say, okay, I won't bet on sports when you're making millions of dollars as your livelihood.
Yeah.
Speaking of sports gambling, we'll pick that up in a minute. If you're a sports gambler, you need to try out Betalytics. The Betalytics dashboard. Dashboards allow you to quickly identify the top graded best bets and hottest trends. Just go to betalytics.com to start betting smarter today.
Have you seen these Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals football, their new uniforms?
Yes, we shared it on our social media platforms at Peak One Sports.
What are your thoughts on them?
I thought they were underwhelming in a sense that there was a build-up. It wasn't just like how a lot of the teams are saying, hey, we're revealing them on social media at this time. There's a big event. I got dragged into it. I watched it for an hour. And it wasn't just for, I mean, they were interviewing their new head coach. There was a lot of stuff involved in there. But it build up. And I'm like, what are these uniforms? I like the uniforms. They're all right. Again, go check out all of our social media platforms. We have it posted. They're simple. I just thought the last time they did something like this was the Detroit Lions, and I didn't like those uniforms. I don't like those uniforms, really. And they make this build up to these special uniforms. If you're a Cardinals fan, you probably appreciate it a lot more because I know it goes back towards the history. But for me, the whole event, a little underwhelming.
There's been some buzz back and forth. I think there's mixed emotions. I would say it's probably split down the middle on liking and disliking. I personally like the look. I think Nike did a fine job with it. I think that's more where detail and style goes nowadays, is to a more simplified look. Now, I would agree it has that Ohio State-esque look, especially the black and the Ohio State all black they wear is almost identical versus the font styling.
You have to have the right color scheme as an NFL team to go all black. I know they've had an all black look last year. It just didn't feel right.
I don't think
a lot of
it's
times
bad.
when you feel like that's an alternate uniform, whether you follow the sport or not, you can look at it and like there's something off about that. It's like it's an alternate uniform, but only a few teams can pull off the all black.
They did a good job in the fact that they got rid of the dingy gray face mask, which have been atrocious. They've been no teams have those weren't appropriate like since the 80s. Those gray face masks haven't been appropriate before they went to colored styling face mask. But now they're going with this silver metallic look. I think it works. I think it's good. I just don't see a problem with it. I think that's where the style goes. I mean, what would anyone want more? What you didn't like the complaint was that no one liked all the piping, the styling, the weird shaping on the uniforms.
Yeah.
They changed that, and then now you don't like that.
I like the classic look, white helmet, white pants. I know they did wear white pants sometimes, but I think most of the time they wore all red.
Yeah.
I think that would be
check
a fodder red.
Check out all of our social media, like you said. There's a lot of details showing the logos and helmets and all the differences there.
And follow it. We always post thread topics.
Yeah, and follow-ups with more details and more information as it comes out. But this week's thread, brought to you by Apogee Graphics, we're going to jump into a series that'll be now a 10-week series. We're going to rank the MLB uniforms in our opinions. We've each picked different ones. We're going to do 30, 29, and 28 today. We'll do 3 every week for the next 10 weeks, up to our top 3.
All-time uniforms.
And this will be
all-time per each team.
Yes, per each team. Some of my standards weren't necessarily this is absolutely the best, but kind of a general ruling of, okay, I like all of their uniforms, but I got to pick one.
Yeah.
In that group. This is kind of where the whole organization would fall in uniforms for me. And then in some cases it was like this all time, no matter what, this is the best uniform available.
My rulings are more, obviously the jersey is the main thing, especially in baseball, is what you see.
Yeah.
I think most of my picks reflect that, the better jersey, but I know some I struggled with that I had to go with this particular uniform across the board with pants and hats involved.
Yeah.
I think most of the time I'll say, yeah, that's also my favorite jersey, but there were a couple I struggled with, and I'll go over that whatever week we go through that.
And just to preface this, my picks do not include any of the new, what have been recently unveiled in the past week or leaked in the past week, City Connects. I have not included any of those because I haven't had the opportunity to see them on field and really let it set in.
Yeah.
First impressions are always a little different until you see them on field, so I haven't included Rangers or what we posted yesterday, the leaked Mariners City Connects.
Yeah.
I haven't included those.
Photo ops and those are always going to look the best. That's the job. Yeah. That's their job, is to say, let's make these look the best possible. So you do photo shoots. They're either going to look, if they look bad in that situation, then they just suck, I guess. Yeah. But you have to see how they play on the field. You have to see highlights and pictures. It just makes it feel better, because a lot of these, my picks are a lot of nostalgic picks. You see players on the field, and that's most of the pictures I've used, is not just pictures of the uniforms, it's pictures of players wearing them in game.
And sometimes that does matter, right? It's the nostalgia of that and who wore the uniform too. And I took some of that into consideration as well.
So here is our number 30 pick, each of ours. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the pictures. We'll describe them best we can if you're listening on the podcast.
I went with the Pirates. I struggled with finding a Pirates uniform that was just really, really good. To me, this is like the iconic. You do see them wear these throwbacks occasionally, in the past few years, with that kind of square-topped hat. And that's a pretty clean, iconic look. It looks nice. You've seen the Pirates wear all blacks, and we've seen them wear the all golds, and I struggled with the Pirates on this one, and this was kind of the best I could come up with, and that's kind of why it fell to the bottom. It's very underwhelming for me.
There's not a lot of teams, maybe none that I can think of that have yellow pants.
Yeah.
And that kind of, you have the yellow hat, yellow pants, black jersey. And I think that's what really sticks out. I mean, I know the Padres kind of have their UPS. Those are more brown, their UPS colors. And I know Padres in the recent past, have had like a all tan uniform. But typically, I'm a fan of seeing baseball pants that aren't gray or white.
Yeah.
Or even powder blue, which you can see mine, but we'll get to that in a second. Sometimes they don't work. If you go bold, even staying in Pittsburgh, you Steelers, their bumblebee uniforms, it's just terrible. I know they wore an alternate with a yellow helmet. That just didn't come off right. I think it is a classic look because this wasn't an alternate uniform. This was their uniform for a while, where they wore yellow pants.
Yeah.
And on mine, I picked the St. Louis Cardinals all powder blue uniforms, or I guess their hats red, but powder blue. I think a lot of teams are starting to wear powder blue more often. In general, it seems odd for the Cardinals because blue isn't one of their colors, but now the Phillies.
I think the
classic is
powder blue they're using, it's more like a gray or white look versus this is blue. I guess in the 70s, even into the 80s, maybe a lot of teams were using this powder blue, and in the next 10 weeks you're going to see a lot of powder blue.
Yeah, I think
in our list. But I don't think it's bad. I think when you look at it as a gray, honestly, I would almost rather see teams use this powder blue look on the road than I would the grays. I think the grays are mostly outplayed.
On certain teams, I think
you'll see in the coming weeks. I have a couple teams that honestly I like them in gray more so than I do their other colors. But I think this is a good look for the Cardinals. It is a classic, more iconic type look for them. It helps the red pop. But I see what you're saying with the blue, that they don't have blue, and it is a stretch.
It's a thing in baseball. Most teams have powder blue uniforms. It's a classic thing. It's not a recent thing. I picked this uniform in general. There are a lot of uniforms that I picked the classic version, as opposed to the newer version. I think, and we'll see that here in a couple of picks. I think this is obviously a newer pick of them wearing powder blue, but I think it works because they didn't change up their uniform. They just literally just made them powder blue, and I like that. A lot of teams, you go their powder blue, there's a lot different, which may work for them. So this is just your classic Cardinals uniform.
Just changing the
powder
fabric
blue.
coloring. Yeah, I like
powder
that.
blue. 29 picks.
So I went with the Detroit Tigers. This is another organization, man, I really had a hard time. They've worn the script Tigers in with the orange tops. Those are pretty good looks. Typically they wear those with a gray pant. This is a very clean look. I think of any team with all white, these might be some of the best all white looks you have. It's very clean. The white and navy, just the navy hat with the Gothic D for Detroit there. This is a very clean look.
It's a classic look.
Very classic look.
Over 100 years.
I can think of as kids, I think one of us played. You played on the Tigers, and this was similar look. The jersey was different, but with that hat and just that, this is a very classic look. Clean lines. It's hard to complain about this one. It just didn't have that wow factor for me to be further up on the list. To come in, it is somewhat bland, but it is that nice, crisp, clean look.
And correct me if I'm wrong because it's not showing in this picture. I believe they don't have names on these uniforms, similar to the Yankees and their gray uniforms. I can't picture if they have names on them, but their gray uniforms aren't their classic gray uniforms.
No, they have gray. It's
Detroit with orange
pinstripe.
Yeah, so that's more modern. These are their normal uniforms. This is what they do. This is what they use most nights.
Yeah.
It's just a classic look.
Yeah, I think this, like you mentioned, the Yankees, this is one that you can't Like, they can't go away from this. They're always going to have this in rotation. Now, unlike the Yankees, Detroit does roll out different these City Connect types,
Yeah,
or
orange.
they have
I think it's the
orange, or they
jerseys.
have a navy top. They have other ones that they will roll out, so they're not completely historic and iconic, but this is the one look they do have, and I think it's a nice clean look.
I had we'll go as a franchise, the Cleveland Guardians. This is when they were the Indians just a few years ago. I like the white pants, red jersey, navy hat look, especially when it says Indians in the blue outlined in white.
Yeah, that's a nice look. Under the lights, like you can tell in this picture, this is a nighttime game. I mean, that color, just like on a Friday night, would just absolutely glow on the field.
Yeah, and of course it's the style logo. I don't know what it's called, but it has the underlining in the name.
Mm-hmm.
This is classic style for MLB.
I like that look.
And our final picks for today, number 28. We both had the same one.
This is funny.
Unplanned.
We had no idea either list before we loaded these up. It's pretty funny. We both came up with the Orioles and the orange. And honestly, these kind of rival. Man, I like the orange look for sure. But man, the Orioles are another one of those teams that just they don't have a lot of options for a lot of they wore
orange
these
and black. Yeah,
for the one I've got. They do the same look but with a black jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're all whites. Maybe that that's similar to kind of an iconic look as well. But in these look nice. I like the look of that. But I do like the ones you picked as well.
Like I said with the Pirates uniforms, any time I can find a uniform that looks good with pants that aren't gray or white, I'll take it. And again, I don't know if the Tigers have ever worn orange pants, but it just doesn't seem like you see it a lot. And this is an example where I was talking about the jersey over the uniform. Although that jersey is an updated version of your jersey is an updated version of my jersey.
Yeah.
I like that jersey better. The Orioles are a little bigger. It's the same black, white outline.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, it looks like it may just be the lighting. It looks like a different tone of orange. But if you took that jersey, put on those uniforms, I think they would be better. And I don't know how often the Orioles wear all orange. But I think in this instance with black hats, I think it wouldn't look good with orange hats. It would look off. I know they wear that black hat with the white front.
Yeah.
But I think this is just one of their classic looks.
And you see this a lot, especially now.
70s, I believe.
In the past couple years, we've seen these City Connect uniforms coming out, and just like we saw the Rangers debut this week with the colored pants, and a lot of people give them heat for that, and it's these are that softball, adult league softball look in this colored pants, but really there was an iconic, a 70s look when they did this monochromatic coloring to the uniforms, and a lot of teams had the same top and bottom color. It wasn't till further now that it's just more iconic to see a gray, all white, and then typically a team would have a color top with gray, a color top with white, and that was it. Now we're rolling with these City Connects that kind of tie in some of this. I mean, I don't know if the Orioles have had a City Connect debuted yet, or will in the future. That could be a very well possibility that you could see a look like that for their City Connect with more iconic logos and things like what we've seen with the Rangers, where they pull out some history for the area, not just the organization.
Yeah, and look, baseball has been around for 150 years. Professional baseball for 130 or so.
Yeah.
Most uniform designs for teams have been tried out.
Yeah.
Unless you completely change colors and styles like the Padres have in the last few years. I mean, they've been doing it for years. You go back, Padres used to be like orange and blue.
Yeah.
And then more blue and gray. And then now, I don't even know what normally they're like brown and yellow. If you are tasked to come up with a uniform, you can come up with it, on your own, and then you go back and look, well, we've kind of used that before, so you kind of like, well, let's tie that in, usually it works for our fans. I think for the fans of the franchise, I think the Rangers, if you understand the history, you probably appreciate it a little more. If you think it's just a random thing going red and black, it does look kind of odd. So that's usually, if you can tie in the past, that's what you'll get, because you're going to tie in your fans and the history. But you can alienate a lot of people if they don't understand the history, especially teams that aren't the Yankees and Red Sox that everybody is familiar with.
Yeah.
Which in that case, they have had mainly the same uniforms for over 100 years. So that's why if, like I said, I don't know how often they wear all orange, if they even do. If they came out with some City Connect, I'm sure it'd look similar to this.
I would say so.
But I can bet a lot of people are going to say that this is ugly. It looks too much like Halloween or something. But that's their colors. It's orange and black. You can only do so much with it.
Yeah, I think that's a good look for them.
Guys, be sure to stay tuned on social media and here on the Peak One Sports Network to continue this series and see our picks, because I know some of mine are going to be controversial. I know some of my favorites, again, because I went with the whole uniform and not just with jerseys or certain aspects. Trust me, I'm going to get a lot of hate for it. So stay tuned and hate me for this. And the teams we've seen, the Orioles, the Pirates, the Guardians, Cardinals, tell us what your favorite uniforms are. Send us pics, comment down below. Get with us on social media. You see our social media tags on there. Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Leadoff. Hear us every Saturday morning on the Peak One Sports Network. See you later, guys.
Have a good Saturday.